Howdy, Jacob here. Today we're looking at the next company in our dividend yield screener, ticker symbol CPAC. Okay, so construction company down in Peru. My best pal lived. Market cap 411 million, enterprise value 361 million. So net debt, more cash on hand, net debt, which is good to see. Um, Interesting. Okay, so what do we have here? 315 in current assets, 536, 851 million minus 562, 851, 562, 289 million net of hard assets, and the market cap's 411 million. So not a bad. That's that's a sign of a little bit of safety. So you have some hard assets holding you from falling too hard. Um, so that's good. What are we looking at cash flow wise? Ooh, pretty good amount of property, plant, equipment over here, and then capital expenditures seems to be a bit smaller, and then gains a little bit at the end here. But free cash flow, looking at um, 47, 36, 35, 77, 33 mil, and they're currently paying out 48 million for this dividend. Looks like they're issuing a little bit of debt to help make up for what they're not receiving in free cash flow, but it is an 11% yield. So honestly, you cut that in half, 24 million. I mean, I'd say they could afford that, even for their seasonality. They make 77, 35 there. Like, I think, I think a business that doesn't have too much room for growth. We can see that their return on invested capital historically is roughly 3 to 5%. So reinvesting it isn't going to do too much for you. Best thing they could do is give it back to you, which is what they're doing. So honestly, I think if they cut this in half, that would be still over a 5.5% yield, and they can definitely afford it. So let's get some assumptions going here. So, man, what very consistent pre-COVID, 329, and then 7 years later, 344 million. So really no growth there. 2021, 22 had massive growth. I wonder if the housing industry probably help with housing and stuff, and it's probably been booming just as it has in America. Um, it's my presumption since I didn't see any acquisitions, a little bit of investments, but um, yeah, I mean, I don't know how reasonable it is to think that their revenue is going to stick up here if they, were making roughly 330 million for quite a while. Little skeptical on that, so I feel like I can't. I almost want to do negative growth, revenue growth, but I think initially just to see what we're looking like in price, might do 0%. Like I said, they don't reinvest too crazy well. They don't get too high of a return on their investments, so I'm not going to bump that up too much. Um, what do we have here for earnings margins, for cash flow margins? 710. That's including a pretty wild year. Let's do 7, 9. No change in share price. So, I mean, right now it's still looking like it needs to fall 36% to get to the 15% yield we're looking at. But, um, I mean, to me, it seems like although the free cash flow is up and down quite a bit, I feel like if they cut that dividend in half, you're still getting a 5.5% yield and something they can afford. So if you're just looking to make that excess money, you don't really care too much about price appreciation. might be fine. Um, we'll say the only one thing I don't like, pretty consistent in the 40s for a couple of years in the mid 2010s, and then now we're seeing 30% gross margin. So I don't really like to see gross margin falling so hard like that. Means cost of goods sold is increasing more than revenue. But I mean, anyways, hopefully, this is something you can add to your list, see if it makes sense to you. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Thank you.